Good morning and welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. We're going to talk a little bit about Homestead update on this one. So I have chosen and purchased and done the whole paperwork thing for one of the pieces of land. This is, of course, number 3, which is an odd thing that we'll explain more in detail later. This one should have affordable well digging at some point. We're going to start with water delivery because you need the tank, and first you do the tank infrastructure, then we'll put in the well. It's 40 acres, and that's a pretty reasonable amount. If it's a flat field, it doesn't look as big. We currently are on 3 acres, and it's irrigated, and there's pasture and a little orchard and stuff, and it looks a lot bigger when you're in the middle of it. The living space, like outside of the pasture, is pretty condensed and doesn't seem all that big. But 40 acres is a lot more. It's a lot. So it's a relatively square property, so you can think of it as a quarter mile on a side. I don't know if you're older and you remember when schools had gym class and outdoor tracks, when bone structure was actually a part of your development, then you might remember what a quarter mile track looks like. Okay, well, that's just one side. So you can run around the property if there was a trail, and that would be a mile circuit, and that's actually pretty big. That's pretty big. The fact that it's relatively flat for the area, this is a mountainous area, but your sight lines once you're in the property are mostly, your visual space is mostly under 60 yards. Okay, there's bushes, there's elevation changes, minor elevation changes, on the property. There's washes and there's high spots. And now if you get out by the road, there's 2 roads. It's kind of a corner lot. Advantages and disadvantages to that, it is, I kind of like it, because I don't have to worry about an encroachment on that other side, and I can do it's a little easier to get into the property in some ways once I decide where I'm putting all the driveway stuff. But on roadside, there's actually a spot where you can see for a good, I'd say 200 feet, 250 feet. You're not at 100 yards yet, but you're pretty close. But that's okay, because your building area, you have to be 150 feet away from the property line to build, which is actually kind of nice. It means that the other property owners in the area don't have shanty shacks right on the edge of the property. So it's kind of cool for purposes of attraction. There's no lack of space. I could tell myself that it feels a little restrictive. For example, I have to really put in a lot of driveway work to make this happen. I can't do a 10-foot driveway. That's okay. That's life. I wasn't going to do one anyway. Let's talk a little bit about what we need to get on there. I love my machine shop. You may not know I have another channel. I do gun stuff. I've been a knife maker. I spent a decade as a knife maker. I do a lot of amateur gun plumbing and basic machining work, and I really enjoy my machine shop, but I'm really looking forward to the other aspects of life. Getting a small machine shop set up is something that will probably eventually happen. It may be smaller than what I have now, which is kind of interesting to contemplate, but I think it'll work out. what I'm really excited about, though, what I really want, like, I want to go now. I want to have a yurt and a composting toilet and be there and start doing stuff. And that's a little difficult because, of course, there's family members involved and there's kind of a lot going on. So I can't just, like, take off, you know. And I'm in the middle of a bunch of machining projects and there's other stuff I would miss. But I will get out there pretty quick. Why a yurt? Why not a yurt? I don't know. I'm not sure that a yurt is more than a seasonal answer or a couple of seasons answer. You know, there's a lot of construction to do. It's a little bit of a difficult space in terms of access, and I don't want modern building techniques. What people think of as modern building techniques are historically an anomaly and seem to have some pretty serious toxin and indoor microclimate issues that I'd rather not deal with. So that's all just going to be different. I don't know how that's going to work. I really don't. I would prefer to avoid a wood-framed structure for the utility building. Utility building is very important, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to drive out a metal kit, a prefab kit for a metal building out there. I don't know, and I don't know if I want to do the manual dirt work as much as it would be good for me to do a full Adobe for a shop building, because that's kind of a lot of work. So I don't know which way we're going to go. Have not decided yet. It kind of depends on what's movable in truck. It's there's some delivery options, but I'm not looking at a full semi either way, no matter what, you know. Probably a 1.5 ton truck is about where we're pushing my limits there. So I don't know. I really don't know where that's going to go. But the composting toilet part, septic tank part, that's all very interesting. Septic tends to be very important because if you have a septic system, oftentimes a lot of your code enforcement people just sort of, they calm down and they relax a little bit. Okay, there's a lot of things you can do, and it depends on personality. You know, we have a guy in the Nevada section out here, a new guy who is absolutely horrible about everything. You can't fix an outlet in a rental property anymore because it's a rental, not your residence. You're supposed to get a contractor literally to replace a 3-prong outlet. And he wants a permit for it. You know, they've got a $90,000 permit process for adding a unit to a property. So if you have a 1-acre property in town and you want to split it to 2 houses or something, $90,000 for a permit for that electric meter. That's crazy. Where I'm going, of course, I've chosen a spot where the code issues are not nearly as bizarre. And for the most part, if you have a septic system, engineered, permitted septic system, you're good to go. Pretty much anything else you want to do, you're going to be able to do. There are some code issues. You know, if you want to build a real house, they're going to want engineering and some permits, and it's going to cost a couple $1,000s total for all of the process. But for example, there's agriculture or utility buildings that, as long as they're not above a certain height, wall height, because of engineering reasons, you can pretty much just build them. You have to file for an exemption. You know, it costs $10, and that relieves the county of all responsibility. Say, hey, yeah, you made a pole barn for your cows, and if it falls down, it's on you. We didn't inspect it, and that's fine. You're not supposed to use them as residences, and of course, that's, you know, part of the thing with utility and agriculture buildings. And it's pretty easy going that way. Now, septic is an interesting, thing. There are some options this is in Arizona, there are some options in the state for alternative waste management systems. The University of Arizona and ASU, Arizona State University, have done projects, and they've got it into the code. There are ways to do composting toilets. And I don't know how far I want to go, which direction. Having the septic system is a really good idea for a number of reasons. It releases you from the constraints of having people from the county bugging you about some alternative system that they don't understand. So there's that. Second, having a functional small septic system is a real nice thing if your compost system breaks down or if something happens. It's good to have. And you want to use it a little bit, but you don't want to use it a whole lot. Another example is if you have visitors at all, definitely want to have your septic, because teaching people how to use dry toilets is socially, culturally, very difficult in the United States. People don't talk about poop. People don't talk about poop. Guys will talk about piss. Okay, at least prior to Gen Z, I think, and then when you're dealing with military people will often talk about piss. Okay, piss on the rock. Don't piss on the wall. Don't piss on my tire, dude. You're drunk. Pee contests still happen. Like, how far can you shoot it, right? This stuff you can talk about. You can tell people, hey, there's a pee area over here right now. We'll move it in a week. There are actual things going on there. But when it comes to poop, Americans don't talk about it. Like, you really can't talk about it. And I've dealt with subcultures where you can. I've learned about how much sawdust to use over your poop, and when and how you change it, and what the process is, and I'm good with that. But I don't want to have to explain it to a lot of people. I don't think I want one of the powered mechanical systems for a composting toilet. Just while we're thinking about that, it's not completely out of the... It's not something that I'm saying absolutely no to, but in terms of maintenance, most of them are very maintenance-free. But I'm not completely positive. The environment is conducive to dry toilet sawdust composting, and that's a wonderful thing. It's conducive to solar cooking, the poop. There's a lot of stuff in there that's very, it's pretty reasonable. So we'll see how that goes. I definitely want to have that in, but a small septic is going to be a necessity for just other reasons. Now, that brings up, of course, what do you put in it? Because, I don't have a problem with toilet paper in general. I would prefer less bleaches, but that's what it is. You get what you can get. And I'm not worried about human waste. It's everything else that I'm worried about. And there are some bioactive. So for example, Oasis is a detergent that is bioactive and seems to work extremely well with gray water systems. We've been using one for several years, and it seems to be very good that way. Oasis is a little bit difficult to find, and if it goes away, I don't know what you replace it with. Soaps, cleaners, and greases, oils. These are the things you have to worry about with your disposal. And it's a broad topic for humanity in terms of the ecology and cities and billions of people. But when, of course, you're dealing with you and 6, 8 other people on 40 acres, large family stuff, then you have to deal with things in a I hate to use the word sustainable or permaculture because the words get robbed so much of their real meaning. But I would like to do something that is sustainable, that I can maintain. And I understand that might not be all on the property, because you're bringing biological material onto the property, food. You can't just fill it up. Some stuff is going to have to leave to maintain the balance. Where it goes, how it goes, this is all a process question. And I can't take it back to the farmland where the cows are grown, right? So, which way do you go with that? You know, on a small scale, I can make it invisible in the larger environment. But when you're talking about thousands of people in the area, then it becomes a little more difficult. You have to figure out where the stuff goes, how it changes, what happens to your water table, you know. Very complicated stuff. But instead of getting lost in the weeds, you just go live your life. As much as possible, and in a homesteading situation like that, you want to maintain a complete lack of inputs into your environment that are not completely organic or bioactive. So you like pee, poop, water, great. High dollar fancy hair care products, I'm not so sure about. Fluoride, let's skip that. You know, stuff like that. Gun cleaning stuff, you know, WD-40, CLP, that you don't want that going in anywhere, even in your septic. You want to avoid that if possible, and that's where things start to get a little complicated. You know, I'm not worried about something like black powder. Black powder you can wash in hot water with a biodegradable soap, so a citrus-based Simple Green or the Oasis detergent or something, and that's all fine. Your septic system can handle that. So, and that's what a septic system is for, stuff that you can't put in your gray water. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at that a lot. I think that a small composting toilet setup is going to be done rapidly, but I'm also going to have to do the septic this spring. You know, it's got to go in pretty soon. So enjoy the chat, enjoy your morning, stay sideways, and we'll talk more about the Revolution games later on.